Business with a servant's heart. Welcome to the podcast. Inspiration, motivation takes. Listen to the podcast. We're all about to talk about life. Our guests will share their life story. We want you to success in life and business. We're ready and we will start shortly. We're gonna talk about life. We're going to speak on business. You're gonna shine bright. We are going to witness. Business with a servant's heart. With hosts Steve, Ramona, and Ray. Inspiration, education talks. Listen to the podcast. Steve, Ramona.
Welcome, everyone, to Doing Business with a Servant's Heart podcast. I'm your host, Steve Ramona. I'm so fired up to have you join us today. We have a retired lawyer. I love those because you know what? They've learned a crap load of stuff that they can teach us. And he's shaking his head. He's going, his head's going crazy. That's why I've had a number of great lawyers on my podcast. And we dedicate this podcast exploring the idea of serving others in your business and in your life. And he's going to talk about something in the very beginning here that I think you're all going to love. But how you can truly make a difference. What's your ROI? Taking care of people. The money will come. I know there's a phrase out, the field of dreams, build and they will come. Same thing with this and money. Serving is and it's such a great feeling. It's so much fun to serve. Also, our guests are going to motivate you, inspire you, and educate you in this service with stories, with resources, with tips to show you how you can do this even yourself. This is not something we hold and don't give out. We want to share it with everybody. And I want to thank my incredible sponsor, Pantheon. Join a community of high-income thought leaders who are building this platform to grow and impact the world. And being part of that will help you grow and impact your business as well. For more information, reach out to me and I'll get you all the info on Pantheon. It'll also be in the show notes as well. With that being said, I'm just to jump right in and welcome our guest. James, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Steve, for having me. I'm so excited to be here today.
There's a phrase, not retired lawyer, but and I can't.
I'm a recovering lawyer.
Thank you. I knew a lawyer would know these. It's a recovering lawyer. And I say that with all love because, as I said in the beginning, you've learned a lot. I want you to start back with, you told me something powerful about your business.
Yes.
And the Red Cross. Tell that story because then people need to hear it.
I sure will. So I had a very unorthodox path to owning my first business. I got married at 19. My wife, who's now, we've been married for 40 years. We met when we were 3 years old, and my mom got her hair cut in her mom's beauty salon, and we would run around and beat each other up. And then at 17, we started dating. And at 19, I said, I'm getting married. And my mom and dad kicked me out of the house and said, you're never going to be able to accomplish anything. And that was my first don't tell me I can't do something, right? So I had to get a job, right? And so I worked at General Motors on the assembly line. And I went through undergraduate and got a business degree. And then I got my law degree. And when I was getting ready to graduate law school, they closed the plant in General Motors. And so I'm like, now what, right? So I send out 200 resumes to all of these law firms and I got zero response. And in hindsight, I wouldn't have hired me either, right? All I did was work on the assembly line for 11 years. So it forced me to go start my own business. And my wife and I had this conversation early on, and I'm like, well, what should we do? And she was like, figure out a topic, figure out a practice area that speaks to you where you can serve others. And as long as you continue to expand the number of people you help, at the end of the day, the money will follow. And that was like my first business lesson coming from my wife, and so we did that. And I set out to build a consumer bankruptcy law firm. And the reason I chose that was I saw a lot of bad things happen to good people at General Motors through layoffs, no fault of their own, but they were losing their houses, losing their cars. They had no voice against this giant credit industry. So I vowed to be that David versus Goliath and give them that voice. And so we first started out, it was me and her, and we were only helping like 2 or 3 people a week. Right. And we're like, how do we learn better? How do we expand who we're helping? And so I started studying human response and what makes people take action. And I changed my marketing. And the first week that I changed my marketing, we signed 68 new clients.
Oh,
And then the second week was 72 clients, and the third week was 63. And now I'm like, oh my goodness, right? Now, how am I going to help all of these people? So, in that process, I learned that every business is made up of parts, and it's really 7 basic parts. The only thing that's really different between myself and somebody else's business is what we sell. But the 7 basic parts are marketing, sales, your factory for producing whatever it is you sell, the people to run the factory, your physical plant, whether you're virtual or brick and mortar, your money and metrics, and then the last part is you, the business owner. And for me, as we started, we had to grow, we had to get people, that could run the factory. And so when you look at it that way and you start hiring people, my first thought was, oh my goodness, right? This is an expense. And I was looking at it all wrong. Right. If I hire people, it should be a return on investment. And the more people I can get in there, the more I can help others. Then we expanded to Detroit. Now I'm helping 130 people a week. Then to Kansas City, and it's 180 people a week. And then to Miami, and it's like 225 a week. And we just kept building till ultimately we had an $8 million law firm. And here's the thing, Steve, the biggest thing for me was when I first started, I felt like I built this job for myself 24/7, working 80-hour weeks. And I'm like, we had our first children. And I'm like, I don't want to be here past 4:30. I don't want to miss anything in their life. So I said, I'm going to create this firm that way where I don't have to be here. And I wasn't. And our firm was open till 7 p.m., but I wasn't there. Right. And what it did was it allowed me to step aside. And now I have a business because of the systems and the people that are running the systems. I had a business that served me so that I could serve others. And so we started volunteering with the Red Cross. We every Friday night, my daughter, my wife, and I would work a 4 to midnight shift, and we would go out if there was a fire, and we would respond, and we would canteen the firemen while they're putting out the fire, and then we would help place the homeowner into a hotel and give them a debit card with food and clothing money on it, just to get them through the weekend so that they have a social worker come in on Monday and get them beyond that.
yeah.
But part of doing the Red Cross was you could train to deploy. And deploy, think of it like a military deployment, because when there's a national disaster, they literally call people and say, can you go? And they deploy Red Cross volunteers from all over the country to say, Miami, where there's a hurricane coming. And when they call and you say, yes, I can go, you have to leave within 24 hours.
Wow.
And literally there's a travel agency that's just for Red Cross, and they book it's just literally like a military deployment. And then you all arrive, you get processed in. But here's the thing is when you go to those areas, cell coverage is gone. A lot of times the electricity is out, so you can't even like access an ATM or anything like that. So I was gone for 30 to 35 days at a time. And what I found was my business didn't miss a beat. Right. And that now I have a business that's serving me so that I can serve others. And I think that is what's really important is when you're building a business, figure out what your why is. My why as the business owner was to help others. And so that's what got me coming back every day and figuring out a new system to put in place so that I had peace of mind that every single time this happened, X, Y, and Z followed, and somebody was responsible for that. And then a backup was trained in case they weren't there. It's kind of like McDonald's, right? Um, they're the king of systems, and any 16-year-old can make that cheeseburger the same as any other 16-year-old. And if this kid quits, they just plug another one in there. And so that's how I built out the business so that I wasn't tied to it 24/7.
And thank you for serving with the Red Cross. It's powerful. But what you're talking about, I talk to a lot of business owners. They say, "Well, that's my dream." Anybody can do this, right?
Yeah, absolutely anybody. I'm no special guru. I do believe I was blessed in many ways. I can point to specific times in my business growth where, you know, God had a hand in it, and he still does today.
Mhm. Yep.
And so one of the things I learned, like I now when we expanded to Detroit and Kansas City and in Miami, we're helping all these people. I didn't have any partners or anything, and my kids weren't interested in law school. So now I'm like, what am I going to do? Am I just stuck? Do I want to expand around the country? So I decided to sell the law firm and go into consulting. And so what I wanted to do now was help other business owners do the same. And by doing that, now I can expand still the number of people I'm helping. So since 2014, I've helped over 450 business owners scale their business in a profitable way that serves them so they can serve others.
Exact same model. You
Yes.
are, if you remember the old song, Dreamweaver. That's what you're doing. I just mentioned earlier it's a dream, and you're saying, no, it's not a dream. Come to me, and I'll make that dream reality.
It's not a dream. And a lot of people, they get caught up. You'll notice that the seventh part of the business is you, the business owner. Okay. The biggest reasons that many business owners don't move forward and build the business that they dream of is mindset issues. It's a limiting belief that, oh, I have to be here 24/7. There's no other way. This business won't operate without me. I had that thought when I first started. I was doing sales, right? And I'm like, ooh, I'm killing it. I can't hire a salesperson. They can't do it as good as I do. And then they were doing it better. And that
It's
was my lesson in hire the people and surround yourself with people who actually do it better. And now the more I did that, the more I was able to step away to where I could rise to the 50,000-foot view and now be the true visionary.
Yep. And you family guys out there and girls that have businesses, you got to spend time at concerts and sporting events with the kids and play and all that stuff where other people go, I can't, or got to work, got to do it. That's a game changer.
It
And
is.
our audience, $8 million. Now, you all don't need to make $8 million. If you made $1 million, I think all of you would be happy. Raise your hand right now if you're listening to this and do that because you would be. So, of the 7 parts, sounds like 7 yourself is the biggest. What's the easiest one? That's the wrong one. What's the simplest one that they can jump on right away and help themselves?
I think the biggest one that gets an immediate impact is marketing. I became very good at marketing because, as I said, I studied the human behavior and what makes people take action. And what I learned during that process is everybody pretty much knows we have two sides of our brain, right? We have the emotional side and we have the logical side. Well, decisions are made in the emotional side of the brain, right? A lot of people like to say, no, I make logical decisions. Well, not really. You make emotional decisions, and as soon as you make a decision, it passes it to the logical side of the brain. And that's where buyer's remorse lives. That's where your brain's trying to keep you in a safe place. So if all of a sudden I said, hey, I want to go skydiving, this side of my brain's going crazy, going, no, you don't want to do that. Right. And it's looking for justifications. So most marketing that's out there appeals to the logical side of the brain. An
Hmm.
example, when I first started, we're running an ad that says stop foreclosure, stop repossession. My name is James. I do bankruptcy work. Call me today. And it doesn't, that's just not appealing to the emotional side. But when I ran an ad that says, are you about to lose your home and can't tell your family you're going to live on the street? Boom, all of a sudden the
Emotional,
phone
right?
is ringing off the hook, right? And so we start looking for pain points, and that's what we target. It's called direct response marketing. And when businesses implement that, your phones will start ringing, your business will start coming in, and then you have this oh crap moment like I did, and all of a sudden it's just me and my wife, and we signed 100 and almost 80 people in 3 weeks, and I'm like, oh crap, now what?
Yep.
And I remember getting called in front of the judges in his chambers, and he was like, you're dropping the ball. And so I had to hire people and figure out systems in a hurry. Right now, I wouldn't recommend that for anybody else, but there's leading indicators that we watch. So when we focus on marketing first, the highest and best use of a business owner's time will always be marketing and sales. The lowest and
Understood.
worst use of their time is doing the production, actually working in the business instead of on it. Okay.
That's a
Um,
great point.
so when you're focusing on marketing and sales and you start seeing the leading indicators, all of a sudden we're getting more website traffic. We're getting more people to call the business. We're getting more people to set up sales appointments, or they're walking in the door. Now I'm starting to think about my factory. What's going to break? Right. And then if this keeps going, who's that next logical hire? Right? And so you think about it in terms of, I look at it like a wave, right? A wave starts way out in the ocean and it's
Hmm.
just this little swell. And then by the time it gets closer, it starts to become a bigger swell. Then the white starts to break over, and then it crashes ashore, right? Well, we
Yep.
want to think ahead through the 7 parts of the business before it crashes ashore.
Yeah, this is really good stuff, audience. I hope you're taking notes because I am, because this is good stuff. So a question comes in my mind. I mentor a lot of business people, and I'm going to definitely introduce a few people to you. I'm struggling. Steve, I'm 100,000 in debt. Speaking of debt, we're not making any money right now. How can I be away from my business? I got to be there because we're in trouble.
Very good question. First, let me be very clear that it's not an overnight process. Okay. I'm not going to magically be able to walk in and say, tomorrow you won't have to spend any time in your business, right? We've got to get you out of the weeds. We got to get you out of working in the business and then start working on it. And that comes in stages. But the first thing we have to do is start making the phone ring. If we're in debt, I call this what you described as a cash crunch. Okay. When we're in a cash crunch, the best way to get out of it is to start selling our way out. Right. Well, we can't do that until we start getting the phone to ring. Right now, we start having sales conversations. I'm probably doing them um, until there's a point where we're having to schedule them out because I don't have any availability. Right now, if we do that, you run the chance of losing sales because they're out too far. The urgency goes away. Right. Remember, when we tap into somebody's pain point, something that's keeping them up at night, they've got a lot of urgency. I want to take care of this, right? So they call you, they visit the store, they do whatever it is. But if it's a sales call situation and we book it out 2 weeks, that urgency drops off the table, right? So when that starts happening, guess what my next hire is going to be? A
Salesperson.
salesperson.
Yeah.
Now I can back out of sales and I can start working on the systems and okay, now here's what I want from the time they hire me or we sell something. What has to happen step by step by step in the most efficient way to deliver what we sold? And who's going to do that? Right? At first, I'm probably doing it. The reason why is I want to understand how it works. I want to be able to say, if everybody quit tomorrow, I could still step in and do it.
but you just don't do it, which is what I love. Once you
Right. So
got
you
somebody
start
there.
hiring people to take care of that, and you're delegating. There is a difference between delegating your responsibility as an owner and abdicating your responsibility, right? Abdicating is, I'm just going to hire somebody, I'm going to give it all to them. And I've seen business owners do this, and I'm like, how are they doing with it? I don't know. I just gave it to them and I haven't looked at it in 6 months. Okay, that's abdicating your responsibility.
Yeah.
Do you have KPIs set up so you can measure their success? What are you looking at reports wise to make sure it's getting done? Are you spot checking to make sure it's getting done the way you want it done? Because here's one thing I learned in business is what I think is happening in my business is not always what's happening. And so by having those spot checks and having KPIs, now I'm delegating it and I'm keeping track of what's going on. So if it varies, I can adjust it. Right. And I think that's a big difference.
No, and this is complex. So this is where you come in, that third party,
Yes.
the 30,000-foot view, doing this. If you're interested, we'll get his contact information in a minute here. That's important because that's the other thing people do. What you don't know, you're screwed.
Yeah.
I know owners don't look at their financials once a quarter. I'm like, you should be looking at it daily, if not weekly, right? I'm gonna ask
there's different metrics we want to look at. Certain metrics like your financials, you're probably looking at them once a month. But if you wait till the end of the month and then look at them, and I'm gonna break down what I mean by that because that seems opposite of what I just said. But you're going to get your P&L, you're going to get your balance sheet, you're going to get those things probably by the 10th or 15th of the following month. What the hell can I do about it now if it's bad? I can't do anything about it. So I'm going to get reports every week that shows me number of calls, number of appointments, number of sales, number of people that showed, number of people that didn't show, cash deposits every day, so that I can make adjustments if I need to, and I can control the outcome of what that P&L looks like.
Yeah, that's the cart before the horse. Yeah,
there's a lot of metrics that you have to look at weekly, and one of the big turning points for me was managing the business based off of data instead of gut feeling or emotion.
Interesting.
Right? I'll give you a quick example. I had an attorney who was falling behind in their work. Everybody else was staying current, and I had a way to spot check, right? And he was always 3 or 4 days behind. And I went and sat down with him. I said, "What's going on?" And he said, "Well, I'm constantly on the phone. Incoming, outgoing calls. I can't get to my work." I'm like, okay. So I left his office and I went over to my wife, who was my firm administrator at the time, and I said, "We need to put an ad out for another attorney." And she said, "Why?" And I said, "Because John is not keeping up with his work." And she just looked at me and she said, "Did you look at the phone records?" And I just looked back and I'm like, "No." And she said, "Don't you think you should?" And so I did. Right. And so the day before, total incoming and outgoing call time was 5 minutes and 32 seconds. So I did this for a few days and it never went above 8 minutes. Right. And so I went in and I asked him, "What's really going on?" And I showed him the phone records. And then he said, "I don't know how to navigate Windows." He's a lawyer. I'm like, my first question was, "What do you mean?" He goes, "I don't know how to find the website. I don't know how to get to your server. I don't know how to find this or that." I'm like, "How did you make it through school?" He said, "My girlfriend did it for me."
Oh,
And I'm like, "Well, today's going to be your last day." Right. But here's the thing. I almost made a decision to hire another $80,000 lawyer because I didn't look at the data.
that is such a great story. And you know the biggest lesson in this whole story? Have a great wife. That's two things already that she's I've learned. I'm sure there's many more, and you've been blessed. We come to the end here, and I've learned so much about business in 25 whatever minutes. I really appreciate it. Let's ask a fun question. So we got serious about business. So I've reserved a table at a restaurant for you. table for four. You have three empty chairs. Who would you invite, whether they're dead or alive? And what food would you order?
Ooh, that's a tricky question. My wife's coming for sure.
I was going to say, I knew the first one already.
Right? She's coming for sure because not only in my personal life, but in my business life, she's been key. And so she's coming for sure. I think my second one, if I could invite them, would be Jesus.
Yeah.
That's just my personal opinion. Because I look to faith all the time, as my guidance when things aren't going the way I thought, and I have to understand that it's not my timeline. The last person I would want there would probably be either Elon Musk or why is his name escaping me? Amazon.
Jeff Bezos.
Jeff Bezos, yeah.
And we'll bring an
just to
extra
pick their
chair.
brain. One of the things I found out, I used to be in mastermind groups, and I run mastermind groups now. But one of the things I found out was when I'm the smartest person in the room, it's time for me to change rooms. Right. And having somebody like them there is doing exactly that.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, but I'm going to bring a chair in too, because I'm going to sit right next to you and learn from them. Two people I would definitely want to learn from. You're a blessing. Your Red Cross story is really, truly Jesus and God's. I'm amen to that. I love that. It's his way. But you're also out there helping. You have to charge and value, but you do it with service mentality. I see why you were asked to be on this podcast. I just met James today. Fell in love with him in 26 minutes because this is the way to run business. I appreciate you. How can people reach out to you and find you?
Absolutely. So we actually put together a landing page just for your listeners. It's businessaccelerator.institute, and it's /doing business.
Perfect. We'll put that
and
in
they
the
can
show
find
notes.
out everything about what we're doing to help business owners from startups all the way up to, I have one right now that's working with me that's a $50 million a year business. But that's where businessaccelerator.institute /doing business.
I love that you mentioned that because it's agnostic to any business. If you're doing 100,000 a year to 50 million, the 7 parts don't change.
They don't.
Just the product, service, and people. You gotta take
I
care of those
usually
people.
tell people it's new level, new devil.
Yeah. You got great phrases. I got a whole page of, I hope you do, audience. You write down notes. Play by the rules, but be ferocious. Phil
That's
Knight.
right.
I have to say that because it caught my eye. And, it's not ego. It's like, there's rules here, but be service. Go get it. I love it. Thanks again, James. And audience, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Here's why. I know a lot of you out there, entrepreneurs, you're friends of mine going, God, I want to learn more. Or you have a friend that has a business that's struggling or wants to start a business. This is the guy, James Brown, you want them to meet. Grab this link and send it to him. Go, man, I just listened to James. I already got 3 people I'm going to share with already because they need to hear this. What a gift. What a way to serve people through my podcast. That's why it's here. Or any other podcast you are listening to or you host out there. You're giving gifts every time you do a show. And this was a gift to me and to all of you. So me and James want to thank all of you for watching or listening to this podcast. And we'll see you all in the next episode of Doing Business with a Servant's Heart. Have a great day, everyone.